this is the bit where hopefully I can add some value to you guys. And please tell me if you think I'm wrong. Tell me if you think I'm talking crap. But hopefully, if nothing else, you'll get a bit of the energy coming off me, and hopefully that will give you a little bit of a pump up so that you can have a better Christmas and then an awesome 2019. Because like the big thing about this thing, guys, before I get stuck into this year right here could actually be the best year of your entire career. And I'm not saying that with any exaggeration. And I'm not saying that because I want anybody to follow me or anything like that. I'm saying that because that is actually true. It is an actual fact that 2019 could be the best year of your entire career. Why? Because let's face it, next year is going to be a very emotional year for a lot of people. It's going to be really emotional for vendors because at the end of the day, a lot of them, they understand that the price gradient is going down like that. The value gradient is dropping. So therefore, whenever a vendor looks to sell, they're always looking to sell in order to achieve something greater in their lives. And the big thing with that is the fact that the lower the prices, the further away is the greater goal that they're trying to achieve. And that will make them become a lot more emotional about things. And it won't be a focus on price, it will be a focus on time. It will be a focus on time. 2019 is a focus on time, not price, for vendors especially. So the big thing about 2019 is that if you can show a couple of key things, empathy being one, and like I've mentioned once or twice, being a human first and an agent second, 2019 is actually such an incredible opportunity for you to grab a significant market share within your areas. A significant amount of market share. So that when things start to pick up again, which they will, because all the market does is that, and when it does start doing that, and you've got that market share based on the keys that I'm going to mention, and the fact that you've shown a greater degree of empathy to your marketplace, that's when you're going to really, really hit your straps. And it's going to be a lot easier even than a couple of years ago because of the work that you're going to put in to 2019. Now, big thing about this, all of this is, it is going to be harder work, gang. So you've got to roll up your sleeves. No getting away from that. No getting away from that. It is going to be more difficult in terms of actual effort that you will need to expend. Telling you that now. So we've got to make sure that we just accept that and move on. It's going to take more effort, all right? Now, like I said, I promised I was never going to talk about scripts and dialogues because personally, I'll go on record as saying this, I don't actually believe in scripts and dialogues, not because of the fact that in an ideal world they don't work, because in an ideal world they would work. However, when's the last time we've lived in an ideal world? The problem is, it's not the fact that the scripts and dialogues do or don't work. It's the fact that the context is not being analysed well enough to allow the content to be relevant. So a lot of agents are making the mistakes of taking these scripts and dialogues as gospel and taking them into every single situation and putting square pegs into every single shaped hole they could possibly find. Now, yes, some of them will strike well and they'll do well and that's fine. But the vast majority, when you think about how many different demographics we're dealing with, how many situations we have to face as agents, chances of those scripts and dialogues working for you, unless you understand the true context of the situation that you're in, slim to none. Slim to none. Can you imagine going in with a script and dialogue and then it's a bit like the episode of Friends where Phoebe, one of the characters, though you don't watch Friends, she is gone to become a toner salesperson over the phone. She's got this script and she's got it in front of her. She picks up the phone, she calls one person, and the person on the other end of the phone who used to be on Seinfeld says, I don't really want any toner today because I'm about to kill myself. And apparently that's a really comedic sort of point. But the point I'm trying to make is what the next thing Phoebe does is she looks down at a script, starts flicking through, looking for the bit that says that the buyer is thinking about killing themselves. And that is a very morbid but very obvious way of explaining the fact that scripts and dialogues, unless you understand the context of who you are working with, you're going to struggle to make those scripts and dialogues work. And that is a simple fact. Now, keys to 2019. Number one, perspective. Number one is perspective. Now, like I said, it's easy for me to say this because, I'm not in the goldfish bowl that you guys are all in within your marketplaces, and that's totally understandable. You know, it is difficult to, when you're that heavily involved in something, to actually step outside and gain that greater perspective. Now, from an agent's point of view, the perspective that you need to have is that, like I said, 1, it's going to be harder work. 2, deals are going to take longer to put together, okay? But 3, the perspective, and this is where that increased awareness within your vendor and buyer population can actually help you. If you take the perspective of the fact that a lot more people have a greater understanding than what we give credit for, so I'm not saying that we assume intelligence, because assumption makes an ass out of you and me, but at the same time, if we can actually give the general public, the consumer, a greater degree of credit with regards to how much they do or don't know, we can then start to use it more effectively, not to our advantage, but to everybody's advantage, so that we can all acknowledge, yes, look, we are all on the same page, because we do know it's an increasingly difficult market, but what are we going to do about that? It's not a case of just sitting and dwelling. This is where we as professionals, this is what we get paid to do. We're in the solution business, my friends. So that's what we need to be aware of when it comes to perspective, and making sure, as well as that, I would absolutely recommend Nick Stewart. Here's another name I'm gonna mention. He doesn't realise how much of an impact he had on me all those years ago when he came and took a chance meeting on us in the office I was working in. Writing goals down is so important, because you're gonna get frustrated at times, guys. It is very, very obvious that is the case. So having your goals written down, and as soon as you get frustrated, getting them out and reading them to yourself out loud if you can, it will help to ease the concern of whatever it is that's going on in that immediate moment. So please write down your goals, because that is going to be so important moving forward in terms of your perspective. Now, structured collaboration and stability. Like I mentioned, and I think we can all agree that next year is going to be a very emotional time for a lot of vendors especially, and a lot of buyers, because of that fear of overpaying and getting frustrated about spending too much time in the marketplace trying to find something and being too picky, all those sorts of things. It's going to be a much more emotional environment. Now, what vendors will need to see in order for you to maintain a decent working relationship is they're going to need to see stability, they're going to need to see predictability. Not in terms of the marketplace, because that is the one thing that none of us can predict. None of us can control the marketplace, and we can't predict what's going to happen, truly. We can have educated guesses, but that's all they are. They are all guesses, after all. So, a vendor needs to have as much predictability as possible, so that it allows for them to not be as clouded in their judgment as what they will be if you allow them to just interpret the market and just go week to week without them realizing and understanding what's happening in week 3 or week 4 or week 7 if necessary. So predictability is one thing that they absolutely, and that just knowing that they understand the process is going to be so crucial. Now, collaboration. The definition of collaboration is working with someone to produce an outcome. Now, like I said, the silver lining to the increased awareness is this thing here. And it's not just on the vendor side where you all agree and understand that the market is going to be tougher, therefore it's going to be a bumpier ride to sell. But on the buyer side as well, collaborate with them. Say to them, yeah, look, I understand that your fear may be that you don't want to overpay. And that's a completely valid concern, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. However, we've got to make sure that we keep a level of perspective. So all I want to do is work with you to achieve a fair result for both vendor and buyer. It's not my job to make you overpay necessarily, but it is my job to make sure that you can get in and out of the marketplace with a degree of success. So collaboration is absolutely key. And on the vendor side, just to finish off the vendor side of things, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, because they understand that the money is going downwards, all they care about is how quickly they can get in and out of the market without the market damaging them too much. All that they care about is getting in and out of the marketplace without that marketplace damaging their asset too much. So this is where time-based strategies are going to become way more important. And like I said, they're going to want to know the process of how you're going to get them from A to B. in its entirety. So I would strongly advise in a listing presentation, don't even wait till you've listed it, but in the listing presentation, literally lay out the map for them so that they have a greater understanding as to what path they need to take in order to get from A to B. And that might be, we might say, look, in week 3 or week 4, if we haven't got the result and we have made these changes between now and then, we're going to need to look at how we're priced according to the rest of our marketplace. Things like that. You're going to need to knock those things on the head, because then it will give them a much greater chance to process it and think more logically, which will allow you to work together a lot more effectively. So collaboration and stability is so important. Private buyer inspections. At Open for Inspections, like I said, numbers are dropping massively, so that is one big thing. Spending half an hour and hoping that one buyer is going to turn up is not really the most effective use of your time, although I understand that Open for Inspections still probably have a place. You're wasting your time doing 2 or 3 per week because you think that that's servicing your vendor. It's just completely not true. It's just absolutely falsifying service, because all you're doing is fluffing them and making them feel like things are busy when they're actually not. So for me, private buyer inspections are so important. And if I was an agent that's been in the game for only a couple of years and you've become accustomed to just using Open for Inspections, get yourself into a habit of going, as soon as you get a buyer inquiry, your plan A should always be to get them to a private inspection. Now, I know that might be a little bit more time consuming if you've got 6 buyers that you need to do 6 individual private inspections as opposed to 1 Open for Inspection. But at the same time, your probability of success, because you're going one-on-one and you're going to get an opportunity to tune into that buyer on a one-on-one level, it's going to allow you to actually help paint a picture of them having bought and lived, or having bought and invested in that property, which will increase the probability of success. Because right now, so many buyers are stuck in that level of logic, and it's only when a little bit of emotion comes into the frame that they're going to actually feel like they're going to want to buy the place. So, private buyer inspections for me are so important going into 2019. If I were you, I'd have a key KPI as to how many private inspections you're doing every single month, and then working on achieving those targets and analysing your success with those. Not having as much reliance on your OFIs, and definitely getting into your private inspections a lot more. Constant progress ties in with the vendor collaboration thing. All the vendor wants to see is moving forward. They understand it's going to be harder, but the last thing they want to see is the process stagnating, is the process becoming stale, because that's when the fear of time, that they're wasting time sitting where they are and doing nothing, it's going to affect their biggest asset more and more. So making sure that you're showing constant progress in everything that you're doing. And we being in the solution business, guys, so say, right, we're going to implement changes A, B, and C. We're going to analyze them over the course of the next week. If hopefully the outcomes are going to be X, Y, and Z. If they are not, then next Tuesday when we catch up again, I would strongly advise that we perhaps need to look at shifting our strategy by doing D, E, and F in order to move forward and get ourselves closer to a probability of an outcome. That's all they want to see, is genuine progress. And if you can do that and actually get them on a level where they feel like they're at least moving forward, then you're going to be spending less time gift wrapping your listings to other agents. Withdrawn listings and expired listings are going to become an integral part of the industry, because there's going to be a merry-go-round of listings that will go from one agent to another agent and then sell for market value. So the last thing that you want to do is gift wrap them for your next agent to go and sell at market value. And if you can show constant progress to your vendors, then you are absolutely going to minimize the chances of that happening. So instead of listing 10 and only selling 5, you might list 10 and actually sell 7, which is an increase in efficiency, which is one of the challenges that I mentioned. So, social proofing from outside of the office. This isn't just testimonials, guys. This is not just testimonials. And we need to stop relying too much on the whole rate my agent thing. Now, written proof, absolutely, that's part of it. But if you can get some social proof that isn't just testimonials, it is proof of helping a community out. It's proof of doing something outside of your regular scheduled programming to assist the community or a client or something of that sort of nature. It's going to resonate way more with an emotional marketplace. So the whole bread and butter of selling for a great price and getting as much money as we can, yeah, absolutely, get testimonials for that. And it's wicked for those of you that are doing that, for sure. Of course it is. Of course it helps. But next year, vendors especially, they're going to be doing a lot more homework on each agent because they're going to be seeing that people will be taking a lot longer to sell, so they won't want that to happen to them. So any little advantage that you can give yourselves by actually providing to the ecosystem that is giving you an income is absolutely going to give you a greater chance of success and a greater chance of creating more trust between you and your community. I've always been big on giving back to the ecosystem that is providing for you and your family. That's why I always did plenty of community work, and even though I'm out of frontline sales now, I'm still involved with community groups in my local area and so on and so forth, because I just got into a habit of doing it, and it became addictive to in a sense, because you've got to give back to the ecosystem that provides for you, and no more so than 2019, because if you can do that, you'll get a lot more vendors that will put a lot more faith that you are doing the right thing for them. Focus on your consumer, not your ego. Now, like I said, and it was a bit tongue-in-cheek when I put those bullet points up about, not having the shiny whip or, the flashy suit or anything like that. I was joking, tongue-in-cheek, all those things are lovely. But at the same time, it's not just a case of getting as good a result as possible. It's getting your client base and your vendors to understand how you made the consumer feel throughout that process. So even if you did achieve a sale, but it took you, say, 80 days to get the outcome, in essence, if you can get a video testimonial from that vendor that demonstrates and illustrates and points out that, yes, it took a little bit longer, but because Andy or whoever it was, because the agent made us feel like there was way more control over the process, we actually felt a lot more at peace, even though we understood that the market was a rather iffy one. The agent did everything they could to make sure that we had a smooth landing at the end, and that is exactly what they did, and we're so grateful. You can get things like that to happen with your interactions with your clients, and that is when market share will start to escalate exponentially, because a lot more vendors will be looking out for things like that, because the numbers, like I said, they don't care about the numbers, because at the end of the day, their biggest asset is taking a hit every week that they aren't getting sold. Now, the other thing is, when it comes to focusing on the consumer, is on auctions. From an auction perspective, I'm seeing record numbers of neighbours turning up to auctions. Record numbers of neighbours. Now, that would perhaps say to some of you, and I'm trying not to be biased when I'm talking about this right now, but that would suggest that to some of you that you perhaps shouldn't do as many auctions because of the fact that you're not going to be able to sell as many, and therefore to the neighbours, it will look like you're not as good at your job. I completely flip that argument on its head by saying, if you can focus on the consumer and actually show in a public sense that you are doing everything you can possibly do to achieve the maximum outcome for your vendors, every single one of those neighbors is going to see that effort, appreciate that effort, and actually allow them an opportunity to see you for who you really are. And that is not a bad thing, hopefully. For some of you it might be, but for the majority of you, it won't be. And that is a good thing. So even if it passes in, if you've shown as a team that you've done everything you can to get a result, you've got sweat dripping down your faces, and you've been busting your chops, loads and loads of activity and what have you during the auction, then all those neighbours are going to turn around and say, geez, they worked real hard. Clearly the vendor, unfortunately, is asking a little bit too much for their property, but wow, I want that amount of effort for my place. That is what they will see, above and beyond the result. Because the result, like I said, they're coming to each of these auctions almost assuming that it's going to pass in because of all the media stuff. So use it to your advantage, guys, and actually give yourselves a platform to show how much effort you're prepared to put in for your vendors. Now, the last one. Make effort to actively network. And I'm talking about actively network because the key, like one of the stereotypical things that agents do and agencies do is in terms of community support, they'll put boards up for any event and think that that is them doing their thing. At the end of the day, a brand is only effective, especially now when it's an emotional process, brand is only effective as the people that are behind it. So you've got to make sure that you turn up to some of these events. You've got to actually make sure that you front up and support personally. Because again, if you do that, people will tag you on Facebook, people will tag you on Instagram, people will take pictures of you and actually share those things. And I'm telling you now, that will tie in wonderfully well with getting social proofing from outside of the office. Because if you can do that, your name will start to spread like wildfire. It did for me, thankfully, in sort of 2011, 2012, when I started getting more involved with the soccer club, when I started getting more involved with the council, with the Chamber of Commerce and community centres and things like that. And all of a sudden you're 50-50 if you're going up against an agent and the vendor knows of you from the local soccer club that you went and helped with the trivia night, and they saw you that night, or a friend of theirs saw you that night and you seem like a nice person, then all of a sudden that 50-50 becomes a 60-40, then a 70-30, because you've got more social proof outside of your job that you are a good human being. And that's a really, really crucial thing, gang. So making an effort to actively network is so, so important. But above all that, gang, it is human first and agent second. This can absolutely be the best year of your careers. It's whether you want to tackle it or not. That's the important thing. But gang, since I started Soul Buy full time at the start of the year, the really, really cool thing that I've found is, since I've got out of my goldfish bowl and networked with a lot more agents, there are way more good people in the industry than the industry gets credit for. And I'm saying this in all seriousness. I'm not blowing smoke up anybody's trumpet or anything like that. There are so many good people in the industry, and all they want to do is do right by people. So guys, you've got to tap into that way more than any script or dialogue or system or process or anything like that. You've got to be absolutely unashamed, or you've got to be absolutely proud of the fact that you're a person that wants to help people. If you can do that, and you show that, and you show that, look, the market is the market. I'm here to be the solution to your problem. I'm here to be the positivity in the world of negativity that's going on right now. You do that, you'll have a lot more people gravitating towards you than you realize in your local community and further beyond. And I, for one, I'm going to be so chuffed to be able to help a whole bunch of you out with that in 2019. So guys, if you have any questions about any of this, please feel free to hit me up. Like I said, I don't believe I'm the Bible. I really don't. But at the same time, I have an opinion, and now's the time to be sharing it, guys. So get involved, post your questions below. If you have any debate or anything like that, let's have it out, because it's all healthy. If you're going to do it with an ego, then look, I'm not stupid. It can be shot down pretty quickly if all you're going to bring is ego. But if you bring in reasoned debate, then guys, that's when we're going to make progress as an industry. And for me, for one, if I can openly say, chest out, that we're going to improve the industry by being people that just want to help people, and that's including each other, then we're going to rock and roll in 2019. And who gives a stuff about what the media or the market or anyone says, because we're going to be helping progress people's lives. And that is a pretty cool thing to be able to do. So guys, on that note, all that leaves me to say is to wish you a very Merry Christmas. I hope you have an awesome time with you and yours, and your family and your friends and all that sort of stuff. If you're working over the Christmas break and you're in Victoria, hit me up, because I'm going to be kicking around. So if you want to have a coffee and a catch up, please feel free, because I love catching up and having a yarn with people that want to have a chat. But guys, if you're going to take a break, make sure you enjoy it and stay in the moment, because if you dwell on what's happened, you're going to come out in 2019 with some battle scars that you don't want to have. And trust me, I've got them, I wear them, and I own them, but I would rather you guys avoid them. So give yourself a chance to process and reflect on what happened in 2018. And then in 2019, let's pick up the baton, let's pick up the microphone, and let's rock and roll, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate your time and attention. It is so much appreciated. Thank you so much. I hope I provided some of you with a degree of value. If I didn't, and you just learned what not to do, awesome. And then at least you've spent your time effectively doing that as well. But gang, take it easy. Have a great break. And in 2019, let's rock and roll and enjoy helping people. All the best, guys. Take it easy.